Thank you everyone for being. I hope you can all hear me and see the presentation. If you could just mute the microphone so that we don't have any feedback sound, that would be great. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Danny Butterfoss. I'm the Vice Consul here at the U.S. Embassy in Bishkek. I've been here for just over 1 month so far, and so far my time in this country has been great. And one of the favorite parts of my job is when I get to see students come in to apply for their student visas to go study in the United States. So I'm very excited to talk to you today about the student visa process. As was mentioned, if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to just put them in the chat, and then we'll also have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So let's get started. Student visas. First of all, just something general to know about a visa is that for the US government and for us at the embassy, the top priority when we're issuing visas is the national security of the United States. So if you're wondering why is it so strict, why are there so many procedures, it's really because our #1 priority is the national security of the United States. But that being said, we really do want to facilitate travel for everybody who's qualified for a visa. So if you think that we love saying no and we don't want anyone to come to the United States, that is completely not true. We really, really want especially students to come to the United States to study. And why do we want students to come to the United States? There's a few reasons. #1 is that when people from other countries go to the United States to study and they spend time there, they generally come back feeling good about the United States. Most people, I think, have a good time when they study in the United States. So that's really good for us, that people can learn about our country and come away with a positive image of our country and our culture. Second is that oftentimes when people study in the United States, they go back to their own countries and they become leaders there. So that's really good for us to have leaders in other countries who have studied in the United States and know our country. And finally, students have a very positive impact on our economy in the United States. You're spending money on school, you're spending money while you're living in the United States, and that allows more people in the United States to have jobs working to support students like you. So with that being said, I'll get into the presentation. First, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the visa application process, and that'll actually take up probably most of the time. Then I'll share a few statistics and updates. And finally, we'll end up with some more resources and how you can get in touch with us if you have further questions. And of course, at the end, we'll have time for questions. So let's start with the basics. What is a visa? A visa is basically permission to apply for entry to the United States. What does that mean? Or what is it in practice? A visa is basically it's a sticker that we place in your passport. It includes a photo of the person whose visa it is, your name, date of birth, place of birth, and the visa type. So you can see on this picture here, if you look over on the right side of the visa, it says type B1, B2. That means that this is a visitor visa, a tourist visa. For a student, it would probably say F1 or M1 or something like that. Something to note about visas and a common misconception is that a visa doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to enter to the United States. What a visa does is it allows you to travel to the United States. And then when you usually get to the airport, the Customs and Border Protection Guard, they're the ones who make the final decision to let you into the country. So a visa lets you travel, and then the border service is the one that actually lets you in. So now let's get into the different types of student visas. There's basically 3 main classifications. There's an F visa, and that's the most common one for students. And this is for students in an academic or language program. So most students fall into this category. Then there are J visas, and J visas are for exchange visitors. So usually that's a shorter term program. Maybe you're just going for 1 semester or 1 year to study, or even maybe for shorter than that, you're going on an exchange program. And then finally, there are M visas. These are less common, but these are for vocational students or other non-academic students. And the most common example that I can think of that I've seen are, for example, maybe pilots going to flight school for a few weeks. So it's not really an academic program, it's more of a training program, and they would get an M visa. And I'm telling you all this just for your own background knowledge, but this is not something that you need to memorize and you need to know when you're applying for a visa. When you apply for a specific school or program, they will let you know which type of visa, if F, J, or M, that you need to apply for. So the visa process. Visa adjudications are consistent worldwide. So that means that the laws for who is allowed to enter the United States, who is allowed to come study, that's the same everywhere in the world. That doesn't change. What might change a little bit are the different processes at each embassy, like different systems for making an appointment, or there might be slightly different procedures. So let's get into some of the details. Student visas can be issued up to 120 days before your program is supposed to start. So that's about 4 months is when you could get your visa. And for J visas, they can be issued as soon as the applicant obtains their form DS 2019. So that means basically as soon as an exchange visitor is accepted to their program, they can apply for their visa. And something important to note about these timelines is that we really do encourage people to apply for their visa as soon as possible, because you never know what can happen. There might be delays, and we want everyone to be able to get to the United States on time to start their program. Some other things to note about the timelines for visas is that while you can apply for your visa up to 4 months before your program starts, you can't actually enter the United States until within 30 days of your program start. So within 1 month, that's when you can actually travel. And then for F and M visas, once your program ends, you have 60 days that you can stay in the United States after you finish studying to make travel arrangements. Maybe you want to do some traveling before you go back home. You can do all that for 60 days after your program finishes. And for J visas, for exchange program visitors, they have 30 days after their program finishes until they need to leave the United States to go back home. So let's get into what a lot of you are probably curious about, and that's the interview. Before the interview, students need to complete the DS-160 visa application, and that's the application that anybody applying for a visa needs to complete. So any kind of visa, everyone does the same application. You need to schedule your visa appointment. And this slide says pay your application fee, but actually here in Bishkek, you don't pay your application fee until you actually show up for your visa appointment. But beforehand, you need to pay the CVIS fee online at fmjfee.com. That's a website that you go to, and the CVIS, SEVIS, that stands for Student Exchange Visitor Information System. And everybody needs to pay the same fee of $350. You should also make sure that your passport will be valid for at least 6 months after you plan to arrive in the United States. If your passport is going to expire soon and you don't have 6 months left on it, you'll need to get a new one before you apply for your visa. And then once you schedule your interview and show up here at the embassy for your interview, that's when you'll need to pay the visa fee, which is another $160. And that you can pay either in dollars or in som, but you can't mix dollars and som. You have to have one or the other. So the required documents. These are the documents that you absolutely need to have for your visa interview. Number one is a passport. You'll also need to have a passport photo. And that's like this photo you see here, a white background, looking straight at the camera, no glasses, no hats. And I'm sure you've seen everywhere around town, there are places that you can get passport photos taken. You'll need to have the DS-160 confirmation page. The DS-160, as I mentioned, is the visa application that you fill out online, and then you'll get a confirmation page that looks like this. It's kind of a small picture, but you'll just need to print that out and bring it with you to your visa interview. For F and M visas, you'll need a form that's called the I-20. And this is a form that whatever school or university or college that you are accepted to, they will mail you this form. So you just need to bring that with you on the day of your interview. And the final thing that you absolutely need to bring are the receipts showing that you've paid your SEVIS fee. And that's the $350 fee I mentioned earlier that you pay online. You'll just need to print out your receipt to show us that you've paid that fee. And then it's also important that before you come in, you check the website, our website, which I'll show you at the end, for anything else that you might need to bring in addition to these required documents. So what is a consular officer like me actually looking for during the visa interview? I know there's a lot of information out there online about this, and unfortunately, a lot of it is just not true. So I'm here to tell you what we're actually looking for. Basically, 4 things. First, we want to know who you are. Why is it that you want to study in the United States? What have you studied so far? Whether you've completed high school or you've completed university and you're going for your master's, we want to get to know who you are as a person so that we can make a decision about your visa. Second, we want to know what is it that you want to do. One of the biggest problems I see when students come for their visa interviews is they really can't explain what they want to study, why they want to study that, how they found this university that they want to study at. So you need to be able to explain your plans, what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And that brings me to number 3, which is how you're going to fund it. Because this is a very important part. It's great if you are accepted to, the school of your dreams, but unfortunately, if you don't have any way to pay for your studies, we can't give you a visa to go study because it's unlikely that you'll be able to finish your degree if you don't have the money to pay for it. So in addition to those documents that I mentioned, like your passport and your DS-160 confirmation page, you may also want to bring documents showing how you're going to pay for your school. For example, if your parents are paying, maybe you want to bring some of their bank statements to show that they have some money to support you. And finally, what do you intend to do when you've completed your program, your studies? This is a very important point as well, because student visas are for students to go and study and then to come back to their countries. So you need to have a plan and be able to explain that plan for what you want to do after you graduate. So what might happen during your visa interview? First thing, and the most likely thing, is that you'll be approved. And that's great. Your visa will be printed usually within a week, and then you'll be set to travel to the United States. Your visa could also be refused. And some of the most common types of refusals are, the first one is 214B. And it's not important to know, to memorize this number, but 214B basically means that you didn't do enough to show the consular officer that you actually intend to study and then return to your country. So that could mean that maybe it didn't appear that you had enough money to pay for the program, or maybe you didn't convince the consular officer that you actually wanted to study in the United States. Maybe they thought you were actually planning to just go and live and work in the United States. So that's 214B, and that's a very common reason for refusal. Then there's also 221G. And 221G is technically it's a refusal, but it basically just means that we need some more information from you. We need some more documents. So maybe you were missing one of those documents that was required, and you just need to turn in that document, and then your visa can be approved. And if you're refused 221G, the consular officer will explain to you exactly what you need to turn in order to get your visa. And then the final one is 212A. And this could be because maybe you have something in your past that makes you not eligible for a visa. And this could be something like you've committed a crime, you've had problems with drugs, alcohol, things like that. So it's very important that you're honest during the interview, because not everything, we know nobody's perfect. So it's not like you've done one little thing wrong in your past and you're not going to get a visa. But there are certain crimes that would make you ineligible for a visa. So it's really important to be honest in your interview with the consular officer. So I mentioned 221G, which means that your case is being placed in administrative processing. And this just means that, like I said, your case requires further review or we need some more information. And this really depends on the case. It could mean a lot of different things, but like I said, you'll get specific instructions about what we need in order to continue your processing your visa. And this is why I mentioned earlier that it's important to apply as soon as you possibly can, because in case your case is placed in 221G administrative processing, it might take you a little while to get those necessary documents. So you want to apply as soon as possible so that you have enough time to get everything in order, so that you make it to the United States in time for your program. So now, like I said before, there are a lot of there's a lot of myths out there, a lot of false information about the student visa process. So I want to take some time right now to address some of those things. The first one, there's a right and a wrong answer at the interviews. False. This is not actually true. There's no right answer and wrong answer. We just want you to tell us more that what's true for your case. Everyone is unique, so we want to know you. We want to know what's unique about you. So there's no special rehearsed answer that's going to get you a visa. What you really need to do is just be honest and let us get to know you as a person. The second one, you can get a visa to attend any size of university. And this is true. Public, private, small, large, all colleges and universities are approved to admit international students. So it really doesn't matter where you're going to school. It doesn't matter what college you're going to or what university you're going to. What really matters is that you can explain why you chose that university and why you want to study there. So if a consular officer asks you, why did you choose this university? And you just shrug your shoulders and you don't know, that is the wrong answer. You just need to be able to explain your reasons. The third one, you are more likely to get a visa if you use a visa fixer. False. This is absolutely false. And unfortunately, we see a lot of students who go to these visa fixers and they pay them a lot of money, but they really shouldn't, because visa fixers can't help you get a visa. There's no information that the visa fixers have that's not available to you publicly online. And the visa fixers have absolutely no sway over our decisions. We don't talk to visa fixers. Visa fixers don't know us. They don't have any special tricks. They don't have any special inside information. So I would encourage all students to not use visa fixers. Don't waste your money on them. It's okay to have somebody you know and trust help you with your application. Maybe if they have studied themselves or they've had a visa themselves in the past and you want them to look over your application or you have some questions for them, that's perfectly fine to have somebody that you know and trust help you with the application. But I want to say again, I would encourage all students to avoid visa fixers because they might just take your money and they don't give you any benefit. Finally, international students are welcome in the United States. And this is absolutely true. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we love when students from different countries come to the United States to study in our country and get to know our people and our culture. And that way we Americans also get to know you and your culture. And that's something that's very important to us. So international students are absolutely welcome in the United States. I think this is a good time. We're almost getting to the end of the presentation, but now since we're talking about false information or visa myths, I want to open it up to any of our participants if they have heard anything that they're wondering if it's true or not, if they have any questions about this. I see one question in the chat. Thank you for that. It says, is there a list of US colleges and universities who are eligible to invite international students to study? In other words, how can a prospective Kyrgyz student avoid scammers? As I said on the slide, pretty much all universities in the United States, whether it's a public school or a private school, a small college or a really large university, they're all approved to admit international students. So you don't really need to worry about being scammed that way. What I was warning about with scammers is that they may, charge a lot of money to say, oh, don't worry, we'll put together all the documents you need and we'll guarantee you to get a student visa, because nobody can guarantee you a visa. It's every individual case is decided individually. So anyone giving you guarantees that you can get a visa is probably lying, and you shouldn't waste your money on them. I really encourage students to do their own research and choose a school that's right for you and your interests. And that way, when you get to your interview, you'll be able to explain that to the consular officer, and it comes off as much more convincing to us. We can tell that you're really interested in this school, because the students who go to visa fixers and the visa fixers choose the school for them, we can almost always tell in the interview that this student hasn't really researched the school. They just went to somebody and paid them for a packet of documents. This video conference is being recorded. I'm going to defer to my colleagues at the public affairs section whether or not that'll be shared publicly.
Yes, of course, it's recording and it will be available after the session in our YouTube channel, American Spaces in Kyrgyzstan.
Great. So yes, look for it on YouTube, American Spaces in Kyrgyzstan, and this video will be available. If there are no other questions right now, I'll move on. There's just a few slides left. On this slide, we have some resources. As I mentioned earlier, we encourage you to not go to visa fixers, because all of the true information about the visa process is available publicly on these websites. So travel.state.gov, that's our State Department website that has all kinds of information about all types of visas, including student visas. So that's a really great resource. educationusa.state.gov has a lot of great information about different programs and different schools in the United States. j1visa.state.gov, that's more specifically geared towards exchange programs if you're interested in that. And then the fourth website there, ciac.state.gov, that's where once you actually apply, you can go to that website to track the status of your application. And then the final one is the website from the Department of Homeland Security with more information about studying in the United States from their perspective. Okay. We still have plenty of time for questions if anybody thinks of any, but I'll also leave you guys with this contact information. If you have a specific question about a student visa, our email in the consular section is consularbishkek@state.gov. You can always refer to the embassy's website. There's the embassy's phone number, and if you call that number, they should be able to refer you to us in the consular section. But really the best way is to email the consularbishkek@state.gov. And you can also follow the embassy on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have a new Telegram channel that I encourage everyone to follow if you're on Telegram. So with that, I'll leave it open if there are any more questions. Okay, I see one. Yes, very good question. The question is, can a visa applicant talk to a consular officer in Russian or Kyrgyz if they are not fluent in English? Does it lower their chances of obtaining a visa? You absolutely can talk to the consular officer in whatever language you feel comfortable most comfortable in, English, Kyrgyz, or Russian. With that being said, if you're going to study, your doctorate in the United States and you are going to be studying it in English, and you can't do your visa interview in English, the consular officer might wonder, are they really going to be able to complete this doctorate? So as long as your program doesn't require a certain level of English, you can do the interview in whichever language you want, and it would not affect your chances at all.
So thank you, Danny, for your very important and informational presentation. It will be helpful for student who is going to study in United States and prepare his documents and themselves. So guys, if you have the question, please feel free asking your question about student visa or chat in chat box.
Okay, I see one more question.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
I have a question.
Sure.
In Global UGRAS program, the documents like this, passport for interviewer.
I'm sorry, your question was about the documents that you need?
Yeah, documents. You said that passport and other things.
Sure, I'll go back to that slide right now. There it is. So you're going to need a passport.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to need a passport that's valid for more than 6 months from the date of your program start. You'll also need passport photos. You need to fill out the DS-160 visa application online and then print out the confirmation page that you get. It'll have a barcode and it'll show your photo like you see in this graphic here. And then if you're applying for an F or an M visa, you need a form that's called the I-20. And this is a document that your school or university will mail to you once you're accepted to the program. So they'll mail you this paper and you need to bring it with you to your interview. And if you're applying for a J visa, that's a visa for an exchange program, they'll send you a similar form, but that's called a DS 2019. So once you're accepted to the exchange program, they'll mail that form to you and you need to bring it to your visa interview. And then the final thing that you absolutely need to bring is a printed out page showing that you've paid the SEVIS fee that I mentioned, the $350 fee that you pay online. Once you pay it, you'll see a receipt on your computer screen and you need to print that screen and bring it with you. So I'll leave that slide up. And
thank you very much.
Thank you for your question and for being with us today. I saw one more question in the chat that says, I checked on your website that the embassy started B1 visas. Is that true for tourism too? Yes, it is true. Starting on December 1st, we're going to be open for all types of visas again. So that includes B1, B2 visas, which are your tourist visas. That being said, I know that appointments are filling up very quickly. So the earliest available appointments might not be until January or February. Another question, what if your visa request is denied? Can they reapply? Yes, you can apply as many times as you want. And the only thing is you'll have to pay the visa fee each time. And I would encourage people to, before they just immediately reapply if their visa is denied, to try to think about why it was denied and then wait until their circumstances have changed somewhat before they apply again.
Hello, sir. May I give my question as well?
Yes, is that here?
Yeah. Thank you for your advices. I have a question regarding the scholarship programs. For example, if I will apply for the scholarship where the university will be paid for the all fees and everything. Mm-hmm. In this case, for example, in my bank account, it's not enough, like because everything going to be, you know, they cover it. So in this case, how it will be your bank account issues in interview, like it will be important or?
Yeah, really good question. So while I have this slide up on that form I-20 that I was talking about, one piece of information that's contained on this form is it will say if you have any scholarships. So we'll be able to see how much money the university costs and how much money you have in scholarships. But I would also say if you have a scholarship, you should definitely bring some kind of letter showing that to your visa interview, just to make sure that the consular officer knows that you have a scholarship. And since you asked about that, about the financing, I'll just give you a little bit more detail about what we look for in terms of your ability to pay. In general, there's no exact amount of money you need to have in your bank account in order to study in the United States. It will, of course, depend on how much your program costs, if you have any scholarships. But a general idea to keep in mind is that we look basically to make sure that you have enough money to cover your first year of your studies. And then beyond that, to make sure that you have some way, some plan for paying for the rest of the time. So say if your parents are your sponsors, your parents are helping you pay, we would want to see that your parents have enough money in their bank account to cover your first year. And then we would want to see that they'll be able to continue paying after that. So maybe, do they have a job? Do they have some way that they're making money continually that they'll be able to continue to pay? So that's kind of a general rule of thumb for financing.
Another one more question, I'm sorry. For example, my sisters and brother-in-law, they are they're financially secure and they are, for example, rich.
Mhm.
Can I show their bank's account and everything? Because in Kyrgyzstan, I don't think they are the one who will be support in my studies, for example, in this kind of cases.
It doesn't have to necessarily be your parents. If you have another family member that's willing to support your education, that's totally fine. You should just tell the consular officer who's going to be supporting you, and then show the documents to show that they'll be able to support your education. So same thing, kind of like you can use a bank statement. If they are employed, you can show a letter from their employer with their salary on it. Yep, it doesn't have to be parents. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. I see a couple more questions in the chat. First one is, if the F1 visa is approved, does the applicant have to pay additional fee for putting the visa into the passport? Or is $160 US the only consular fee? Good question. For F1s, it's just the $160. For some other types of visas, like I was mentioning B1, B2s, if those visas are approved, then there's an additional $45 fee. But for students on F1s, there's no additional fee. Let's see the next question I have here. So the question is there a Kyrgyz organization authorized by the US Embassy to assist Kyrgyz students in preparing a package of documents for applying for a visa? That is a really good question, and I'm really glad you asked it, because the answer is no. There is no specific organization out there that we work with or that we authorize. So if anybody claims that they are specifically authorized by the embassy, that is most likely false. So I would avoid them. Like I said, all of our information is available online on these websites I shared with you. So nobody has any special access or any special information. So another question, I filled out the DS form and submitted, but later I found a few mistakes. Can I fill out another DS form? If yes, should I inform the embassy by email? I would say don't fill out another one, but you can let us know by email that you had some mistakes, and just tell us the correct information in your email. And I'll show you back to our email address that you should send it to is consularbishkek@state.gov. So yeah, just send us an email with your name and the mistakes that you made. And then when you come in for your interview, we will know that there were some mistakes and you can just tell us so we have the correct information. Let's see. Another one I have here is, if I study in Kyrgyzstan for a PhD, can I continue it in the United States? That would really depend on the school that you're going to in the United States. I know of some students that, yes, they've been able to get some credit for certain classes that they've taken already in Kyrgyzstan, and that those classes then count towards their American degree. But again, that would be on a very individual basis. So it would depend on what you've studied here and what school you're going to in the United States and whether or not they would accept it. So I would say once you're accepted or once you're thinking about applying to certain schools, you should communicate with the academic advisors at those schools, and they would be able to tell you if those credits would be accepted.
So I see that some of the people raise his hand: Gulzar, Galaxy, and Miriam. Gulzar, if you want, you can add your question.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Hi, Consular. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. It was very informal. However, I still have questions in regards to the F1 visa. Could you please share some information about reapplying for F1 visa? Is it the same process? And if you reapply, does it kind of guarantee that you'll be approved or something? If you can share something about that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Do you mean, I guess I'll answer both. I'm not sure if you mean reapplying after you've been refused in the past or reapplying after you've been accepted.
Sorry, yeah, when you got accepted. So
Okay.
when you already studied, and then if you go to travel, like visiting your homeland and going back to US.
Really good question. And that reminds me of some information that I wanted to share about F1 visas. Typically, when you are admitted to the United States on a student visa, you're admitted for as long as you continue to be a student. So even though your visa might say it expires in 1 year, as long as you are staying in the United States and you continue to be a student, you can stay longer than 1 year. But where I think this question is coming from is then, if you leave the United States and your visa is expired, you will need a new one to go back. And so, yes, you would have to reapply and basically do all of the same steps that you did the first time. And there's no guarantee that you would be approved again, but it's very likely, because if we've seen that you went to the United States as a student and you were really studying there and you've been completing all your classes, and then you just came back to, say, to visit your homeland, like you said, for the summer, there would be no reason, I don't think, that we would decide to refuse you for a visa, because you've already shown us that you're a good student. So I hope that
Gotcha.
answers the question.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
So I saw one more in the chat. Let me just scroll up to it. Is it okay in principle to use the assistance of a third party, like a local company, to prepare one's documents? Should a student mention this during their interview at the consulate? So yes, in principle, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing illegal, or there's nothing that's gonna get you refused for a visa if you use a company to help you prepare your documents. And you should mention this at your interview, because like I said, you want to be completely honest, because if a consular officer, we can usually tell if you've used a company to help you. And so if we ask you about it and you say no, and you're lying, that's going to be something that will count against you. So it's not, you can use a local company, but I always encourage students not to, because I think basically it's a waste of money, because you can do everything that local company can do, you can do it yourself. But if you really want to, just to have somebody looking over your documents, no, there's nothing wrong with it. But I would encourage you, just so that you save your money. And the most important thing is, you don't go to a visa fixer and then they just give you a packet of all the documents and you don't even know what's in there. because it's really obvious when you come to the interview. And if you can't even explain why you chose the school, then that's going to count against you as well. So you can use a local company, but just be very careful about which one you use and make sure that you have also done your own research.
Thank you, Danny. And I think the Galaxy wants to ask you. Galaxy, you can ask your question. I'm sure, I think it was maybe just mistake. So, dear participants, we have some time. So if you still have your question, please add them.
Yep, happy to answer any more questions.
Sorry, I have one more question. It's like tricky and I don't know. I was asking earlier and just to be sure.
Mhm.
I was applying for many years, like just like to have a chance to win or luck, just, you know, just like for the visa lottery,
Mhm.
for the green card lottery. And it's not going to be an issue if I apply for student because I'm not going to stay there without any, you know, approve states. Like I want to study and come back. But green card, I was applying just how to say like a lottery.
Yeah, I understand. So
Yeah.
So no, applying for the diversity visa, or what's commonly known as the green card lottery, that doesn't disqualify you from getting a student visa. What I would say is that you should definitely be honest about that. If the consular officer asks you, tell them that yes, you have applied for that. And they might have a few more questions because they'll want to know to make sure that you really would return after you finish studying. So be prepared to tell them what is your plan for when you finish your studies and why you want to come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, we still have time if there are any more, and I was just going to offer some, if there are no more questions, some final advice for people. I see one more question. If it's possible to get 100% student visa if you received an invitation from the US school. It's not 100%, no. You still would have to come in for your interview and we'd have to find that you are eligible and you're a credible student and all of the things that I mentioned earlier, like that you have the ability to pay and that you there's nothing that would disqualify you from getting a visa. So being accepted to a US school or university is the first step, but it doesn't guarantee you a visa, no. Okay,
Any
if there are no
question?
more questions, I'll offer my final words of advice for students. The first bit of advice is what I've been saying throughout is that just really do your own research. Find a school that's right for you, that has the programs that you want to study, that you're interested in. Because if you are applying for one that you're really interested in, that's going to come through in your interview. And then secondly, about the interview, I really would encourage you. I know it can be a nerve-wracking experience, a little bit scary, but think of it more as just a conversation than as a test. So we're not there to test you. We're not going to ask you any trick questions. We're not trying to trick you. We really want to say yes. We really want you to go to the United States and study if you're qualified. So just try not to be nervous and think of it as a conversation where we can try to get to know you so that we can give you your visa.
So thank you very much, Danny, for your time, for your presentation. And thank you, dear friends, for joining us, being us with today. And we hope that it was very helpful and you will succeed in your application, getting your visa. So I think we can finish for today. And thank you. Have a nice evening and good luck.
Thank you very much. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.